Welcome back to the Kiwi Wedding Podcast. I hope you had a great Easter weekend if you're listening to this the day it comes out. My name is Lydia. I'm a wedding photographer and your host. On today's episode, I'm sharing my lovely chat with Kirsten. She got married back in 2019, so a little bit of a different time in the wedding industry to now. And it is great to hear all about her love story and her experience planning 2 weddings. One, a slightly smaller one that they kept a surprise from most people, and then their bigger marquee wedding day. We chat through their experience going through some really hard times and dealing with grief and loss in the family while navigating that period of life and planning weddings amongst it. Why they decided to do a smaller surprise wedding and then a bigger DIY celebration down the track. Kirsten is also a wedding vendor herself and the owner of Amplified Cosmetica in Dunedin, and they do skin, brows and makeup. So cool to chat to different vendors from all around the country. Obviously, I know a lot in Auckland and the surrounding regions, but we have some amazing talent right across the country, so this is a good one to know for you Otago girlies. We chat through both experiences with her wedding days, all the highlights, some tricky things, and some amazing advice. We chat through really focusing on what you want and trusting your gut on those decisions. She touches on a difficult dynamic with a bridesmaid and what she wishes she would have done. I think this is a relatable thing for everyone, and just dealing with all the different relationship dynamics that come up around weddings. I know a lot of you will feel seen on this. She also has some incredible advice around pre-wedding skin prep and how to look and feel your best for your day and not give into the many pressures around the different beauty standards when it comes to being a bride. This was a beautiful chat that we went into many different areas, so I know you guys are going to love it, and be sure to let me know what you think. And also pop over to Instagram to see some of Kirsten's wedding photos too. Enjoy episode 92 with Kirsten. Hi Kirsten, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. So excited to chat all about your story.
I'm so excited.
So good. So we'll chat through your kind of story and wedding first off. So could you, to start with, just tell us a bit about you and your husband, how you guys met, and your life together?
Cool. So I'm 32 now. I had to double check that last night. And my husband and I have been together since I was 18 and he was 19. We met at a small wine and food festival in a small little town called Clyde, through one of his mutual friends. I was still in high school at the time. I was 17 at the time. I shouldn't have been at a food and wine festival, but I was there and it was a great time. And so him and I just spent a good probably like 8 to 10 months getting to know each other. Became like that classic of became best mates before actually being in a relationship. And when we actually spent our first year of our relationship doing long distance. So I went up to Auckland to study beauty therapy, and he's from Dunedin. So he was down here doing his, I think by that time it would have been his second or third year of his apprenticeship. So so we met through mutual friends. So we've had a pretty eventful life in terms of I studied in Auckland, then moved down, and he was a very smart 20-year-old and bought his first house that we lived in together. And then we decided to move to Brisbane for a couple of years just to do something different. Our friends were all in their settling down phase and we weren't quite there yet. So we went and did that. And unfortunately, it kind of leads into the first wedding story. We moved back a bit earlier than planned because my father-in-law was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. So we chose to move back because we knew we wanted to be close with him for his final months, and also to support my mother-in-law. In the background, my own mother as well had a autoimmune disease that was terminal for her as well, but that wasn't necessarily the super bad at that time. So that's when we decided in those couple of months, so that was like January he was diagnosed, we decided to do a secret and surprise ceremony to get married in the June. And we managed to hide it with the fact that it was my husband's birthday the day before. So we kept, both sets of parents and grandparents didn't know that it was happening. We just said that we were having a gathering for my husband's birthday. And my sister lived in Perth, and my husband's brother and now wife live in Brisbane. So we had them fly over as well. So they knew what was going on and helped us with the final planning and stuff. So that's how we did our first wedding. And then we decided that we wanted to keep it a secret because we only had, I wrote down how many guests we had, but it was literally like 9 at the first one. But we decided we wanted to keep it a secret and keep it to ourselves as a special memory for just us and those that were there. And we knew we wanted to do the full bridal party wedding as well. So that's why we kept it a secret, so that we didn't have people questioning us, not that it mattered, but questioning us of being like, well, why are you still having a full bridal party, doing the big wedding when you're already married? We wanted both. We wanted friends at our wedding, and we wanted family at our wedding. They just happened to be 2 different dates. So yeah, so we've both gone through some pretty hard losses. So I ended up losing my mum about say 7 months before the second wedding. So obviously she made the first wedding, which was amazing. So we both have lost a parent each, and we both have started our own businesses. My husband's a vinyl and carpet layer, so we've done that. We always tend to do quite a lot at the same time, which is a trait that sometimes annoys us, but we wouldn't really have it any other way because we're where we are now because of that. And we now have our little baby girl, Flora, who we call Flo. She is now 8 months old. And she's pretty epic. Yeah. So that's kind of a really brief overview. I don't know if that really covers it, but yeah, that's us basically.
Great. Yeah, you've gone through a lot together and like grown up together as well. So yeah, interesting to hear. We'll get into more of your story, but so yeah, things kind of like fast forwarded a little bit. Was there sort of that proposal moment, or can you tell us about the story of getting engaged?
It was a really cool proposal because since we've been together for such a long time, and so many of our close friends had been together for so long, and they were all starting to get engaged, I was being such a bratty, like early 20s, being like, oh my God, when is it my turn? Which looking back, I'm like, can't cool your jets a wee bit. But he proposed when we were living in Brisbane, and he had planned a weekend away in Noosa. We hadn't been there before since living there. So we went up and he had a whole thing planned of like going for a walk along the national park and everything. And the weather was meant to be shit. So we'd packed umbrellas. And as we were walking and doing it, like I didn't suspect a thing, even though a coworker had said like, I think he's going to propose this weekend. I'm like, he's had far more like romantic chances to do this. But anyway, as we're walking along the national park, I'm like taking photos, thinking of Instagram captions, thinking I'm absolutely hilarious. And he's just like, would you hurry the fuck up and just walk? And then we get to this particular spot and completely took me by surprise. I still have no idea how he got the ring out of the backpack or anything like that. But it was really beautiful. It was just the 2 of us. And then I still just remember on the walk back, because I still had to walk back to our accommodation, just constantly like looking down at my hand, feeling so surreal that it happened. And then we went and got burgers and had quite a few beers and celebrated, just the 2 of us. It was great.
Aww, so good.
Yeah, so it was really sweet.
Yeah, such a nice story. Yeah. Had you been one of those girls that always dreamed about what your wedding would look like? And obviously you had those kind of 2 different experiences, but what was the first steps about planning, and then for the bigger one as well, like choosing a venue, all of that?
Especially in my early 20s, when other friends were getting engaged and like I'd been a maid of honor and things like that, which was so lovely. The wedding I thought we would have and what we had were like polar opposites. And I'm really glad that they're polar opposite. I grew up doing ballet, and doing ballet competitions and things like that, which is sort of how I got into my job. And so I imagined just like full princess ball gown vibes, which could not have been further from the truth of what we ended up doing. For the first wedding, it was actually my husband that came up with the location because it was so small and obviously on an incredibly tight budget since we'd just moved back from Australia. And I didn't actually have my job at that point either back in Dunedin. He actually came up with the idea of my grandfather used to work at it's like a farming based business in Mosgiel, and if you tell anyone that I got married at Invermay, they're kind of just a little bit like, what? But he has a tree and a plaque there for him for when he passed away, because he works there for some like 50 something years or something like that. So it was my husband that came up with the idea of, why don't we do the ceremony there? Because A, we didn't have to pay for it. B, we're doing it on a Sunday, so no one was going to be around, and it was significant, which was really special. And I knew it would mean a lot to my nana, who was able to be there as well. So that was really cool. And we just did the ceremony, and then we just had a couple of family portraits and stuff. And then we just went for like canapes and stuff at another place afterwards. So we didn't need a big space or to hire anything. For the second wedding, in terms of finding a location and coming up with a wedding, because we were already married, we're kind of like, well, let's have fun with this. We really love a good party. We love a good festival. We love a good, just a good party with our friends, basically. So I found a company in Wanaka called Gather and Gold Teepees, and fell in love with the teepees. And I said to Dean, I'm like, well, we should do this, because it was either that type of vibe or we get married at Larnax Castle, which is so expensive at the time, and there was no way that was happening. And so he basically said, if you can find somewhere to put the marquee, then we can do it. And luckily, one of our friends who was our MC, her father and uncle have a massive piece of land just out of Alexandra in central Otago, and Alex is where I grew up and was my husband's dad's favourite place to go on holiday. So yeah, we went and had a look at the land. It was perfect, and because we love surprises, we were keeping the location and everything about the second wedding a surprise as well. And the land was tucked away from the main road going out of Alex, so no one would see the teepees getting put up. They wouldn't see anything until they literally were going up the winding road. So yeah, we're both quite dramatic people. Everyone thinks I'm the dramatic one in the relationship, but we both are. But yeah, so it was just pure circumstantial coincidence, not coincidence, but circumstance that we found the location for the second one. Yeah, it was very cool.
Yeah,
very, very lucky.
So special. It's nice to have somewhere where no one else has had their wedding as well, and just like, yeah, a beautiful part of the country as well around there.
Yeah, and because a lot of our friends had either started to get married, or especially in my job as well, as a makeup artist doing a lot of weddings, it was something that we really wanted to do, was to do something different, and so that people weren't sitting there being like, oh, I remember when such and such got married here. Like, not that anyone does that, but the things that go through your brain when you're planning a wedding, and that was definitely one of them.
So you mentioned a couple of things there, but yeah, did you have your sort of top priorities for the day, or both days, definitely, including family and your important people? But yeah, what were the most important elements you were thinking about through the planning?
Yeah, so the first wedding was definitely, I wrote notes for this so I didn't forget, short, sweet, and a surprise. It was middle of winter in Dunedin, and if anyone's ever been to the south in the winter, it's not fun and it's not pleasant. Yeah. We were incredibly lucky to have had a beautiful clear blue sky day. It was still freezing, but we didn't want to be there for long, because we obviously had both of our grandparents, like both of our nanas, that weren't exactly, well, my nana wasn't in perfect health, Dean's nana was in great health then, and then his dad and my mum. So we didn't, obviously being outside in hindsight, probably wasn't our smartest move, but I've literally only just thought about that. But anyway, we wanted it to be quick. We wanted it to be a surprise, and we didn't want it to be, we didn't want it to be long, because, again, our sick family members, particularly my father-in-law, he was exhausted all the time anyway. He was quite far through his diagnosis at that point, so us doing like a full day event just wasn't a priority. So no, that was definitely our focus for that, and we didn't want our parents or family to have time to question it, basically, because we knew that they would feel guilty for us doing it, but we didn't want them to question it. We didn't want to have to even have that discussion, because we knew what we wanted and we wanted them there. And there was going to be no discussion about it. So I think they got maybe like an hour and a half's notice or something like that. Like, we let Dean's mum and dad, they were coming back from a trip away, and we let them know about halfway on their way back. And then my parents were at my nana's house. So we just basically didn't give them a choice, and it was happening. And with the second wedding, again, a surprise, but we just really wanted to enjoy ourselves, have as much time as possible with our guests, so not be going away or farting off doing other bits and pieces for too long. And we just wanted to celebrate with our favorite people. We didn't want our second wedding to also feel like a memorial. That was a really big priority for my husband. So we didn't do like a candle burning or like reserve seating or anything like that. We had other little touches. So my father-in-law always had a moustache. My mother-in-law never knew him without one. So Dean and his groomsmen all grew moustaches. As their little like dedication to him. And then I had like my mum's favorite nail polish color because she was always really into nails and all that sort of thing as well. So we had our little things dedicated for them. I got little wee like photo pendants, and they were around our bouquets. And the boys, so Dean and my dad had little wee ones on their what are they called, buttonholes. So surprise was another one. I probably took that too literal. There are certain things that would have been helpful if I just asked some people like to do with the planning and ideas and stuff, but I was so adamant of keeping it a secret that I just took that really really intensely.
Yeah.
But yeah, the second one, we just wanted to have a really good time. We just really wanted to have a good time, and we were so excited. I wasn't nervous to tell I can't speak on behalf of my husband, but I wasn't nervous to tell our guests that we were already married. I was nervous to tell the bridal party, but we did that the night before. But yeah, no, we just wanted to have a really good time for the second one and just have fun with the planning and not be too stressed by specific rules of what you should do for a wedding and traditions and things like that, because we were already married. So traditions don't matter. And that's something I'm really passionate about, even with helping my own brides and things like that. If they're like not sure because they think, oh, we're doing a marquee wedding, but there's no way of doing coffee and tea, but Great Aunt Margaret loves a cuppa at 10 o'clock. It's like, she can forego a cup of tea. Do not make a big scene about something so minor because it is so irrelevant to the day. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Good advice. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Do what you want. Don't worry about what you should do or catering
Exactly.
to everyone else.
They're there to celebrate you and to enjoy you rather than question your choices of whether you've got dessert out in time or whatever. Like those things don't actually matter in the scheme of things.
Can you tell us a bit about your outfits maybe for both days? How was that process? Shopping, finding a dress, getting it made?
Yeah, this is probably something that, like, I don't have very many regrets at all, but this is probably something that I wish I had thought about a little bit more for the second wedding. The first wedding, it used to be called there was a business called Pia Boutique, and they were just like lace dresses and stuff. And so I ordered that when I was in the middle of the ocean in Croatia, which sounds super bougie, because we were on a like Sail Croatia trip with a group of our friends. We had to shorten that trip we pretty much went to Europe for 2 weeks, so we could mainly do that and then come back because of the condition of Dean's father's health, but he still wanted us to go, so that was while we are still planning little things for our first wedding, because I think we got back a week later and that's when the wedding was. So I remember being in the middle of the ocean, borrowing my friend's phone who lived in Europe at the time, so I could try and order this dress because I hadn't got it organized in time before I left. And I still love that dress. I wish I had worn it as a second dress at the second wedding, but it was 2019 and I feel like the idea of second dresses and stuff wasn't like super common, and it just never crossed my mind, which is a shame, because it was short and cute and everything. What I semi regret with the second dress, but then I don't, I always loved Grace Loves Lace, and especially from living in Australia and things, I just always was obsessed with the Inca dress, which is like the lace sleeve low back dress. And I bought one off is it Still White, the secondhand dress, so it was still cheaper than buying it brand new, but I made the mistake of buying it slightly too small because it was the closest combination I could find of the size I needed. What I regret about that is not taking it to a seamstress once I got it, trying on veils with it, and actually just seeing what else I could do with it. I kind of bought it and was like, tick, I can't be bothered dealing with it, because there were some times where I was getting overwhelmed, where I'm like, we're already married, so it doesn't really matter. Whereas some of those little details would have been quite nice to just make that completely tailored. Sometimes I regret, but I don't regret it enough that I didn't buy the dress that my mum saw me try on, that I fell in love with, and I was deciding between. But the dress I went with, my mum and my nana both wore full sleeve lace dresses. So to me now, I've created a bit of a tradition. So I remind myself that anytime I was being a little bit like silly, being like, oh, that dress was really cool, because it was really cool, but it obviously wasn't supposed to be my dress. So yeah.
Also interesting to hear that process and thoughts afterward. But Yeah, it ended up looking beautiful. So you had a bridal party for the second wedding. Was that an easy process choosing them? How did you find that?
What I found with the process of picking my bridal party is there was a few that were just like non-negotiables. I chose not to have a maid of honor because I didn't want it to seem like there was a ranking within my girls. I just had my sister beside me and my husband had his brother beside him. So it made sense. And then we just had the order was basically dictated on who was paired up with who, that we knew would have a good time. Most of them knew each other, but not everyone did. My biggest piece of advice for people picking a bridal party is if you have a gut feeling that something is not 100% right with who you've picked, regardless of how, like whether you've already asked them or whether it's like in the months leading up to your wedding, listen to that gut. I didn't. I had red flags thrown in my face, and the universe was like, "You're not listening." So I had the really harsh reality where one of my bridesmaids, I actually no longer have a friendship or relationship with, which took a lot to process. It took a good 6+ months after the wedding to even look at my wedding photos with her in them again without feeling sick. We don't need to go too much into like what actually happened or anything, but there was a lot of warning signs leading up to the wedding. I would get off the phone to her and be in tears because it felt like it was such an inconvenience to be at our wedding. And I hear it a lot with clients as well, or brides when they're planning their wedding. And it's like, just because you think they would be upset if they weren't in your bridal party is not a reason to do that. This particular bridesmaid, one of the main reasons, not main reasons, but one of the big reasons I did pick her in the end was because I thought she'd be really upset if she wasn't a bridesmaid and may not come to the wedding. Like, that's a red flag in itself. And I'm a lot more self-aware now to be able to look back and to admit that was a mistake. And there was two other people in particular that would have been much, much better to be by my side. The perk is because she was socially awkward, she was at the end of the photo, so crop is a great tool. And we've made our peace with it now.
Yeah.
And now I just use it as like a learning, and like if I can help at least one other bride not have that same mistake, or just to actually come back to remembering why you've got those people beside you. It's just, yeah. It's also, I feel like as well, it's a snapshot of who felt important to you and was important to you at that time. Same with your guest list. Like, just because like you don't talk to them a couple of years later doesn't mean they weren't important to you then. Like, life changes, things happen, people move on, or people move, or like whatever. It's just a snapshot of who was important at that time.
Yeah. Yes.
My husband really didn't struggle at all. I think he was picked before I was, or yeah, his was pretty easy.
Oh, yeah. So interesting to hear your experience. And yeah, I think there'll be a lot of people that have that in common or know what you're talking about. And yeah, weddings can just bring out some personality.
I say it to so many people, like the weddings bring out the best and worst in people, and it's often not who you think it's going to be, which is shit. It's super shit. But if you're able to like listen to the red flags or listen to your gut where you can, then it makes a huge difference. I've had clients who haven't, because they've been a bridesmaid a lot themselves, so they can't narrow it down. They've just gone without one and just had the girls come around and get ready in the morning, but not actually be bridesmaids. And I'm like, that's a great option as well for people in that position.
Yeah, it reveals a lot about people through the whole experience and how they act. So I think that's great advice. Listen to your gut, and it's just like life, I guess. Your relationships are always kind of growing and evolving, and some of them end up fading out, and that's just life. But yeah, it can be really tough if you're dealing with that and leading up to a wedding day.
It's kind of like looking at it as like a reason and a season. Like, people sometimes come in for a reason or for a season, and you just have to make peace with that. It's like friendships have certain categories that you put them into. Like, certain friends fit every single box, but certain friends are only good for certain things, and it's just recognizing that.
Exactly. It is a bit of a tough thing with the photos. I know of a few friends that have gone through similar kind of thing, or that just don't have relationships with people in their bridal party anymore, and they're just like, I don't want to look at those photos. And of course you have all your nice couple ones, or just with your family and everything, but tricky for sure.
Yeah, and deciding whether it's worth getting them, I guess it depends on how the friendship's ended, right? To whether you do anything about it. I can look back at them and laugh and remember the day in a positive way without feeling sick. But it took me time. It took me a good 6 months to a year to feel comfortable with that, which is shit, but it is what it is.
Understandable.
Yeah.
And you touched on the guest list a little bit, but how was that process? Did you find that tricky to narrow down?
Not really. There was a few things, like my husband was very much of the opinion that plus ones, if someone's been in a relationship that you're friends with, that their partner should come as a plus one. I am of the opinion that if you've never met them, why would you meet them first time at your wedding day? We had a couple of compromises because one of my bridesmaids and one of my best friends, who recently got married last 2 weeks ago, and it was amazing. Her partner at the time, my husband had actually never met him, even though her and I had been friends for like 10 years at that, a while anyway at that point. So it kind of was almost like, well, I have one, you have one kind of thing. So there wasn't too many people. I 100% mixed up two of his mates' partners on the day. Actually, two of the guys I mixed up. Well, because I'd never met them before, but it's fine. I'd had a couple of espresso martinis at that point, so it's fine. But my personal opinion, is just because there's a partner. If you don't know them or you haven't met them, why meet them on your wedding day, which is your special day all about you, and it's supposed to be your favorite people. Obviously, there's exceptions to the rule, as I sort of said before as well. But also, we kind of looked at it like, if we wouldn't have them over for dinner one-on-one or couple to couple or whatever context, or go out for coffee with them one-on-one, why would we have them at our wedding? If we couldn't sit comfortably with them and not feel like we'd have to have awkward conversations, that sort of thing, like, why would we have them at the wedding? So when you kind of look at it like that, it knocks a fair few people off the list pretty quickly. We're very big on, just because your family doesn't mean your family. No, just because your blood doesn't mean your family, sort of thing. So just because you're connected doesn't mean you actually get the right to come. We actually had two family members that pulled pin that day of, and I still have never had any kind of conversation with them about why they didn't end up coming. They only had 45 minutes to travel to come to it. So again, that was, if we didn't have to invite them, we wouldn't
sometimes.
have. I know, but like, it's one of those things where I didn't notice that they weren't even there until most of the way through the night. So that just goes to show, like, if you didn't notice them missing, then why were they there?
Great advice. I think that's such a good frame of mind. That thing about just like, would we invite them around for dinner or go out with them? Such a good one to think about, because it's like, why would you want to have small talk and awkward chats on your wedding day?
Absolutely. Like, that's not my cup of tea anyway.
Yeah. Oh, can you run us through, you've sort of talked about the first one, but let us know if there's anything you missed there. But can you run us through how the days went, and any highlights or favorite moments?
From the first wedding, it was just the fact that we really caught our family by surprise. And because my in-laws were away the night before, we had my sister and brother-in-law and sister-in-law all go out for dinner. We all went out for dinner for my husband's birthday, because it was his birthday, and it was just really quite cool, just all having this little secret together that was going to be so special. That's one of my favorite parts. And like, there's no part of the first wedding that isn't a highlight, if that makes sense. That sounds super cheesy, but it was because it was exactly what we wanted it to be and what we needed it to be, and because it was so small, it was awesome. The second wedding was so much fun. It was so much fun. There was a lot of stress leading up to it because we DIY'd so much of it. And that is definitely something I've written down for advice, is sometimes just because you can save $100 does not mean you should DIY it. Especially if you're doing a marquee wedding or you're setting up a space, a hall or something, pay someone else to clean the next day. Do not do it yourself. That sucks. But because we partied until 4 a.m. We got home at 4 a.m. The perks of not being in a venue. But we had to have everything that wasn't from the TP company out of the TPs by 9 o'clock in the morning. So that was really rough. Even my dad, who's normally such a soldier, he'd had far too many rosés the night before. He was moving rocks out of the way, like just big stones. And like, that was really unnecessary, but that's all he could manage to do. He couldn't even manage to ask what needed to be done. But no, it was really, really amazing we did a bridal barbecue like the night before. It ended up being pizzas before the wedding, so we could tell our bridal party that we're already married. And I thought that would be a piece of piss to do. Absolutely wasn't. My husband ended up having to do it because I couldn't get the words out. And just watching everyone's reaction, like even thinking about it now makes me a little bit teary. And just how happy they were, and so proud of us for doing that, and amazed that we could keep a secret. One of the groomsmen, because we had Dean's uncle and wife there with their 3-month-old baby, so it was the only baby at our wedding. They were there because he was driving the car for the boys, so it was good for him to know. And one of our groomsmen turned around and he's like, next minute you're going to tell me that baby over there is yours too, which was absolutely hilarious. But that was really cool. And then my girls surprised me because I'm obsessed with Friends and with the movie Bridesmaids. They'd all gotten us op shop dresses and we watched Bridesmaids in our dresses the night before. And because we were already married, it didn't seem fitting to stick to the tradition of not seeing each other until the wedding or till the ceremony. So we actually organised, there's I can't even think of the name, what it's called, but it's in Cromwell, and it's you can do like hot laps and stuff, but there's also go-karting. So we went out for breakfast separately, boys and girls, and then we all met up together and we went go-karting in the morning together of the wedding. So that was so much fun. It meant for a really, really busy morning once we got back, but I did my girls' makeup as well as my own. And it was good because they pretty much just got whatever I decided got thrown at their face. So their makeup was done quite fast. So that was cool. And then my dad got to live out his fantasy of driving a Rolls Royce for the wedding car. He managed to find someone in town that had one. So that was really cool. And then, yeah, it was just amazing, like driving up the windy road and seeing the tips of the teepees and then them fully coming out and seeing everyone around and just seeing the full vision come together was epic. And I'm not a big fan of drinking like wine or cider or beer all day, so we had cocktails and we made them so that they were in big pre-made dispensers without alcohol. So then those that don't drink alcohol or pregnant or whatever could still enjoy like a mojito and then just have a shot of alcohol added for those that wanted it. Yeah, it was just amazing watching all of that flow. And at that time as well, because it was 2019, not many people had done anything but beer, wine and cider. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of like specific moments. Like I always love the fact that when you're down the aisle and you're actually doing your ceremony and things, everything just melts away. Like it really, really does happen. Like you're aware of everyone around you, but it was awesome. I loved the distraction because we didn't need to sign wedding papers. We let off balloons. And I remember one of the groomsmen, because it had been windy and he was trying to like undo these balloons and was having absolute bother with it. It was hilarious to watch. We went away for bridal party photos, which was a lot of fun. And then we, instead of just other people speaking and my husband speaking, again, I'm not a traditional person. We're not traditional people. We spoke first once we came into the entered in or whatever it's called. We spoke and then that's when we told everyone. And like the silence I heard, which is not just because I'm deaf, it's also because I could hear more at that time. But the silence is like the penny dropped. And people registered what we meant. And then it made sense when people had started to notice we never signed papers, or we had this little wooden cutout that actually was like a little and symbol, and it had both wedding dates written on it that was on our head table. So then people started to click. They're like, oh, we thought that was when you got engaged. We're like, different dates, huh? So yeah, that was amazing. And then also another peak was our first dance, because again we didn't do anything traditional, and because we're both obsessed with Friends and like the program, and it sounds really weird, but like Friends kind of got us through both really hard times. Like it was what we watched on repeat.
Such a comfort show.
Yeah, and like when his dad was sick, we watched it every single day. When my mum was sick and passing away, it's what we watched every single day. So our first dance song was actually the Friends theme song.
Oh, so good.
So that was really fun, and watching people's reactions to that, and then just, yeah, even watching the video and the photos of once the bridal party joined, once everyone else joined, it was just awesome. And then it just got to a point where, as much as socializing with people is fun, the whole point of that day was for us to have fun. So I just got to the point where I'm like, I'm done talking, let's get on the dance floor, and that was that. It was great. Yeah. So there was a lot of, I think, other peaks from it are things that I found out later. So a bridesmaid and a groomsman, they recently got married. They got together at our wedding, which is really, really cool. And then there was other couples doing fun things behind the teepee themselves. Obviously not together, wasn't it? But, you know, like in their prospective couples. And then, there's another couple that they think that their conception date or conceiving their last child seems to time really closely to our wedding. So those are some pretty cool things that happened. I know, like the magic of the teepees. It was great.
Yeah. Amazing.
So yeah.
Love that.
It was awesome.
Sounds like such an epic day.
Yeah,
And
it was.
yeah, you've touched on a couple of things already, but what did you find like the hardest part of the whole planning process? Is there anything you look back on and regret or do a little differently?
I think it was the asking for help and not trying to keep everything a secret. Like there are certain things that I think could have, like I could have communicated like to my bridesmaids earlier that I needed a hand or that I was wanting them to give me ideas and that sort of stuff. Whereas they were being really respectful and didn't want to bombard me with things. But so it's like not expecting people to be mind readers, I think is huge. Another one is, this is probably more from a business perspective rather than our own wedding, but it's trusting your vendors. They know what they're up to. They've been doing it for a long time, majority of the time. So Gather and Gold, the TP company we used, they have like diesel heating and stuff that you can use within the TP, and we hadn't thought that far ahead. Hadn't even thought about if it was cold, what it would be like to be cold in the teepees. And so they messaged us on the Monday and were like, look, it looks like it's going to be quite chilly. Have this. We'll only charge you for the diesel, or you only have to pay for the diesel, but just have this. So that's an example of like trusting your vendors sort of thing. But I don't think, to be honest, anything that I look back on with our wedding day that would have been a regret or something I wish I had we had done better or anything. They're all such minor details. Like we had like toy and things like that around as decor. Like I wish I'd cut them shorter, but like that doesn't matter. You know, I wish I had maybe put a bit more effort into decorating the welcome mirror. Like we had, instead of signs, we used mirrors and put decals on vintage mirrors and stuff. Maybe I could have thought that through a bit more, but it doesn't matter. You know, like the day itself was phenomenal, and those little details really, yeah, my regrets apart from a bridesmaid choice is pretty good. Pretty happy.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah.
Did you guys have a set budget, if you can remember roughly ballpark what that was? How was that whole side of things?
I think because the first wedding we tried to do it as cheap as we could. So I didn't wear like a proper wedding dress or anything. But and then at the end of the day, what is a traditional or a proper wedding dress? Like obviously that's pretty obvious, but you can wear whatever you want. I know for the first wedding, I think we managed to keep it just under $1,000, which I was like gobsmacked that we even needed to pay $1,000, but it doesn't take long to rack up. And so I think from that, and then after our wedding, being a bridesmaid and things a few other times, no, that makes it sound like I've been bridesmaid a million times. I think I've once before wedding. But being in the industry as well, I had a much better perspective on how much things were going to cost. And like we were incredibly lucky by things like the land. Like we didn't have to pay for it, but we gave a massive gift afterwards. And we were saving things on like money on like makeup, because obviously I was doing that. And my hairdresser was a friend of mine, so she gave it half price as a wedding gift. But we'd never necessarily set a budget, but because we knew roughly what others had been spending at that point, because a few others had had weddings by then, we knew we wanted to keep it under 30K, which was so much more realistic back then. I think I was under the delusion that because we were DIYing a lot, it was going to be cheaper. It wasn't. We just kept getting shit. We just kept getting more stuff. But what was good was because we kind of had the vision, and once we had the TPs locked in, then we could really like hone in the decor and all that kind of stuff that we wanted. So I spent probably like a year and a half in the lead up, like op shopping, at least last year, op shopping things and buying things, because I had started my business that same year we got married, buying things that I know I could then repurpose into the business. So it felt more justifiable, which I think is just girl math at the end of the day. I don't think it actually is that helpful, but it is kind of nice because we still have the stuff floating around, like the rug that we got married on. A few of my clients have borrowed it for their weddings, and friends have as well. So I think it's done 5 weddings now, which is quite special. But yeah, I think the budget was it must have been between 25 and 30 from what we finally paid. But that's also where I'm like, there are things where time-wise versus cost doesn't always balance. So like it might be worth spending the extra. It probably only ends up being $50, but saves you 5 hours, you know, to have someone else do something. If there was something I would invest in compared to then, would be a wedding planner, especially with, again, DIYing so much of it and creating a venue essentially. If anyone's doing that and they can't afford a planner or whatever, what I found doing was literally walking myself in my head through the whole day. So from like waking up to getting ready to getting there and that's where I came up with the debacle of there's no cups of teas for the old people, and then realized that's far harder than what it's worth to deal with. But walking through the whole day helped me figure out where there might have been things missing. But if you had a wedding planner, that would have been a lot better. They would have covered that so much quicker and come up with like potentials and stuff as well. So yeah, we had our priorities. We knew photography was incredibly important. We knew a videographer was important to us, but we were lucky because we had a friend of my husband's that he went to school with that was able to do that as well as be a guest too. So he got the important parts and then got to chill out himself. Food and alcohol our drinks were our priority. And again, we didn't do traditional type of food. We had a food truck, a pizza oven food truck, and did wood-fired pizzas. And it was amazing. It was unlimited pizzas for 2 hours. Your best bet, everyone made the most of that.
Yeah.
And then doing like the cocktails, and then we did a martini. Well, yeah, we did a martini hour, which lasted half an hour because it was espresso martinis, and they just went so quickly. We did not budget enough or calculate enough for that, but yeah, those were our priorities, is actually like eating what we wanted to eat, drinking what we wanted to drink. And especially back then, it wasn't that common to stray from like having a wedding cake and having a sit down meal or a buffet or whatever. We had designated seating, but it didn't mean you had to sit there when it was eating time. There was lots of other scenarios that you could do. And then we had a a donut wall. When that started to become a popular thing, that's what we did as well, because Dean doesn't really like cake at the moment. At that time, I frothed a donut, so it made more sense.
All the important things, and yeah, again, just doing it your way. So good. Did you guys go on honeymoon straight away? What did planning that look like?
We didn't, and that's something that I think I have said to people before our wedding, and I don't know why I didn't listen to it myself. But having it booked, whether it's straight away or in a couple of months' time, because a couple of months' time for us ended up being COVID. So we didn't do a honeymoon after the first wedding because we'd literally just come back from 2 weeks in Europe. So that kind of felt ridiculous, and I had no job. I was still trying to find a job at that point, moving back from Australia. When we did eventually go away after the second wedding, I think it had been over a year by that point, even longer. And we did like a nice little road trip around New Zealand, like a few in the South Island and stuff, which was really lovely. I still very much tried to write on every booking that it was our honeymoon, just in case someone wanted to do something extra, which is super cheeky, but I felt like I'd been robbed of a honeymoon, so I was trying my luck. But yeah, that would be something that if I could do again, I would do different. I would have something booked. Obviously, the timing for us, it would have had to be rescheduled anyway, but for anyone that's getting married, a honeymoon doesn't have to be a big thing. Like ours ended up just being a couple of places in the South Island we hadn't been to and spending a couple of days there, which was really nice. It doesn't have to be like hot air ballooning somewhere and I don't know, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, just being realistic of spending the time together and getting to decompress.
Yeah, that quality time, definitely.
Yeah.
So good. Did you have any helpful resources, if you can remember, that you kind of used in the planning process? Apps, websites, magazines, anything like that?
I know her website's now called Forget Me Not, but it was the little white book. Yeah, so I had one of those, which was helpful. I got a lot of inspo from weddings in the Together Journal and Wild Hearts website and stuff as well. And for a good couple of years when I first started my business, we were a vendor on the Wild Hearts website too, because I just adore the way that they put things together. But that was, to be honest, pretty much it. I just had a lot of lists of things. Notes app on our phone just always had endless lists, and then I like to write things down too. I just love making lists. So yeah, it wasn't too super fancy, and I know that there's so many other great options now too. I just got a lot of inspo from Australian weddings at the time, especially a lot of the things that we did, like dried flowers, the cocktail hour, pizzas, all that sort of stuff wasn't like super common in New Zealand at that point, but it was popular in Aussie. So, but no, the little white book from Forget Me Not was really good. One of my clients has done recently in the last couple of years has done a really good resource, like a good website. She has a hireable decor and furniture and stuff like that, and so she's added to her business a planning section as well. She's called Swell Event Hire for anyone who needs it too. She's got lots of helpful tips and tricks and stuff, because she was very similar to us in a way where they they sourced all of their decor and all that sort of stuff, thrifted everything, and built their own venue themselves as well. So if you're going down that route, her resource is really helpful. Yeah, it would have been helpful
amazing.
when I was getting married.
Yeah. You've given a lot of amazing advice already, but yeah, is there anything else you would say to a couple planning their wedding at the moment?
I wrote a couple of things down, but some of them I've already covered. The main thing that I keep coming back to is doing it for yourself, like remembering who you're doing it for. You're doing it for you and your partner, whoever else is there is just lucky that they get to be there. It's a privilege to be invited to a wedding, not a given. People should never assume just because they've hung out with you in high school or whatever, or they're related to you, that they get invited. It's always a privilege. But anytime you're starting to get overwhelmed or you're trying to decide between things, a big one that I realized when we were getting married, like planning our wedding, and have seen with other friends too, is that if your partner, whether they're male or female or non-binary, whoever they are, just because they're not saying a definite, I want roses over lilies or anything like that, if they say to you, like, whatever you choose, it's not because they don't give a shit about the wedding. It's because they're happy either way. Most of the time. I can't speak for everyone, obviously. But it's remembering that just because they might not necessarily seem like they're actively helping you with it, it's because they're happy either way. They just want the wedding to happen. They want to marry you. That's the whole point of the wedding. But yeah, just remembering the wedding is for you too. It's not for anyone else. Everyone's taste is different, so you're never going to 100% please every single guest. There's always going to be someone who's like, oh, that's an interesting choice, but who cares? It's not their wedding, it's your wedding.
Yeah, really good perspective there. And what is married life like now? Do you feel like after your wedding you got any of the post-wedding blues?
Oh, I definitely did. But there was a lot of other things going on too. I started a business and lost my mum in the same year. But I think it's one of those things where I just threw myself into the next thing, because as a lot of people planning their wedding at the moment know, it takes up so much of your mental space and your emotions and everything in the lead up. And it's hard because no one cares about your wedding as much as you do. And that's absolutely fine. You've got to remember that too. Just because you're getting married doesn't mean everyone has to be super fizzed up as you are, because it's not them getting married. Yeah, I definitely did. And then we went into lockdowns and stuff like that. So I definitely appreciated having something else to focus on. Being able to go back through like our wedding videos and photos and stuff, and yeah, remembering why we did certain things the way we did rather than picking holes in things, was the best thing to do. It was what you chose at that time.
Yeah,
same with the guest list. Everything is what you wanted at that time.
Yeah, I know, exactly. That's such a good nugget as well. I think people get so caught up on like having the most timeless wedding, but it's like it's never going to be that. Like you look back at your parents' wedding photos or whatever, and it's just like a snapshot of that time, and that's kind of awesome. Like that's what yours is going to be. Just yeah, embrace it.
Absolutely. Like you can't do, it's the same like with like fashion and makeup and all that sort of stuff. Like no matter what, one day you're going to look back and cringe. So you may as well enjoy it for the time that it is. Like, lean into it. Exactly. Lean into it 100%.
Amazing. So cool to chat all about your day. And I'd love to ask a bit more about your business and life as a vendor as well. So you do makeup and skin and brow specialists. Let me know if there's anything I've missed there.
No, those are the three things we do. That's perfect.
Can you take us back a little bit about your sort of background, how you got into that space, and starting your business?
Yeah, so growing up in a smaller town as well, I guess at high school I didn't really think much further than what was probably quite stereotypical for a female to go into. But I grew up doing, like, as I sort of mentioned before, doing ballet competitions and things like that. So I always really enjoyed makeup and the glam side of it, and the sparkles, all that sort of stuff. So when I left school, I just automatically, that's just what I went to go and do. I studied in Auckland because it felt too mainstream to come to Dunedin because everyone else was going to Dunedin. In hindsight, I should have just gone to Dunedin because I ended up moving down. But no, like fast forward a couple of years, when we lived in Brisbane, I worked at Mecca, and they were really, at that time, really encouraging of you to work freelance if you wanted to, and encourage you to have your own makeup page and that sort of thing. So that's when I made my current business page. I played around with a couple of names, but came up with Amplified Cosmetica because I really wanted to create a brand and something for future. I didn't feel at that time, especially when we moved back from Brisbane, that I was ready to start my own proper business or full-on business, but I knew I wanted to have something that wasn't necessarily my name attached to it. Nothing against people who do like makeup or beauty by such and such, but I just decided I wanted to do something different because I also didn't want to be pigeonholed to one thing. Like if I ever decided to go into product development, or not that I ever plan on doing that, but I wanted to keep it. Yeah, never say never. I'm not quite Stacey Banfield. We stock her products as well. She's amazing. So eventually I decided to leave the job that I took when we moved back from Brisbane, because it just really wasn't serving what I needed it to be. And I realized I was giving all of my ideas to someone else's business that I could be honing in myself. I started off working from home, which wasn't the plan, but it all kind of coincided with when Mum passed away. And the wedding and everything like that. So working from home was a slight blessing, especially through COVID and stuff like that. But what I loved about starting my own business was the fact that I got to focus on exactly what I love, which is brows, skin, and makeup. I dropped waxing, dropped nails, dropped all the stuff that, even though it was fun to do, just really didn't fizz me up. And I feel incredibly grateful now that despite going through all the lockdowns, blah, 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 I'm now in a studio space. I have a team of 4, and I've got basically got a beauty team and a makeup team. I've got 2 artists that work with me, and then 2 skin and brow specialists that work with me. One's a junior. I've just had one of my seniors finish up, and she's phenomenal, and she's got a lot of things that she's got, a lot of goals that she's going to be reaching, which is super exciting, but hoping might be able to steal her back one day. But yeah, so that's kind of in a nutshell, like just really worked our ass off through the turmoil that's been the last couple of years to try and create something that is special to people. And I've kept, even though we've moved into a studio space, I've tried to keep that coziness of a home environment. So we're by appointment only. Our sign writing and stuff at the front's quite uninviting in terms of it's not super obvious that that's what we are, because I wanted it to be, and want it to be special for when our clients come in, rather than it being nice for people to walk in and out of. It's to be that breath of fresh air, or that like weight off your shoulders as soon as you walk in, regardless of what you're in for. So similar to the wedding, like I've kind of built the business in a less traditional sense of what I always knew beauty businesses to be. Not super out the gate or anything crazy, but it's just, I just wanted a special little space for us to work in and for our clients to experience.
Oh, I love that. So cool to hear your journey, and amazing what you've built. It sounds like such a beautiful space as well. Tell us a little bit more about your different services. I love that you kind of are on that. If we think about the journey of a bride, that do you kind of have those clients that go on that sort of skin journey with you and prepping for the wedding and then makeup for the day? Yeah, can you tell us a bit about the services you offer?
Yeah, definitely. We're a little bit different with skin in terms of you have to have a skin consult with us first before you can grab any product or have any treatments with us, because we don't want to start off on the wrong foot with the skin, especially if there's like a major concern that you're wanting to deal with. Shopping willy-nilly or shoving random things on your face isn't really going to get you anywhere. So our consult's an hour long, because we go through genetics, lifestyle, all those sorts of things, and what's realistic for that person too. So from a financial perspective as well as from a time perspective, like there's no point me creating or us creating like this 10-step routine when you've got like 2 minutes in the morning. Like it just doesn't compute. We would never recommend a routine as well that we wouldn't do. Like I don't like complicated routines, and the more you put on doesn't necessarily mean the better the skin goes. I never like to push too much when an inquiry comes in for a bride to be like, you should be doing this with us, blah, blah, blah. I will often say at the bottom, like, we're also skin and brow specialists. So if you do want a hand, please let us know. Because I just don't want to be pushy, because there's enough people being pushy in this industry. So I just don't want to be that person as well. It is incredibly exciting when you look after a bride that you've been like skin prepping or brow prepping for like a good year and a half, a year lead up to the wedding. And then you get to the wedding day, and it's just always excited for every single bride we look after, but sometimes they're just that a little bit more, because you feel like you've been such a huge part of the process, especially if you've helped give them vendor recommendations and things like that as well. But no, it's pretty amazing. I love being able to do more than just one part of the wedding for them as well, which is really cool. And I can't help myself but always try to like fix people's problems. So I always try to like find a vendor or recommend a vendor, or, you know, like loan out something of my own, like the rug or something, just to try and see like if I can help as much as possible, which sometimes is to my own detriment, but we love being a people pleaser sometimes.
Amazing. Yeah, so cool to be able to see more of that journey with them. And I'm sure you get asked a lot, but maybe if you have any kind of tips, obviously come see you, or wherever you are, go to a skin specialist and like chat through what you need. But yeah, any kind of hot tips for people in terms of skin prep, getting ready for makeup, brows, anything, yeah, that they need to know in the lead up to their day?
It would be careful where you get your advice from, because obviously it's not always in everyone's budget to go and see a skin specialist or anything like that. If you are wanting to make some serious changes with your skin and you don't have a huge budget, research to figure out where's best to put your money, because it used to be that the more you spent on skincare, the better it was, or the more you spend on a treatment, the better it is. It's not necessarily the case at all anymore. Like some of the price points of products at Mecca, for example, are massive, but the activity level of them and the results you're going to get is very minor. So sometimes you're better to have 3 really good products than 5 or 6 or 10 or whatever of cheaper products. So when I say think about where you're getting your advice from, getting it from your bestie, your mum, your favorite influencer, someone on TikTok, not always the smartest. But if you are able to find someone who genuinely knows their shit, they're not like no shade to influencers that are like this, but like a PT who's spouting about they love this moisturizer because it changed their skin or whatever, then they're just another customer having an experience. They're not an expert. So just remember where you're getting your information from, which can be incredibly difficult, hence why we do such a long consult to try and give as much factual and research and clinical based information as possible. But if it's not in the budget to see someone who specializes in the area, stick with minimal. Keep as hydrated as you possibly can. And then especially the sort of 8 weeks before your wedding, do not try anything new. Do not try a face mask that's brand new to you. Do not go and get dermaplaning if you've never had it done before. Do not go get your like a microderm or an peel or like an aggressive peel or anything like that. Don't even try teeth whitening if you haven't done it before, because I've had a bridesmaid who got blisters all through her lips because she tried teeth whitening the week of the wedding.
Oh, no.
And she wanted me to try and cover up, and I'm like, don't know how I'm supposed to cover that up on your lips, hon. You've got blisters. So that would probably be a huge advice as well. It's like you also don't have to do all the beauty treatments leading up to your wedding. You don't want to. Like if you don't like getting your nails done or getting your toes done or anything like that, like my bridesmaids just painted their toes the night before. We didn't have time to do the other stuff, and it becomes really overwhelming the week of the wedding trying to fit in like 100 hours of beauty treatments. If it doesn't serve you, don't do it. Like if you've never had your brows done before and you feel like you have to because it's your wedding, don't. Like if you've had your bridal trial and your brows looked great with the makeup artist, don't worry about getting them done. Like put the money where you want it to be. If you love going and getting a spa pedi, but you hate getting your brows done and you don't ever get them done, do the pedi. You know, like, I don't know, that's probably maybe a little bit unexpected to be said from a beauty vendor that loves those things. But if it doesn't serve you, don't do it. But yeah, my biggest advice would be in terms of skin, keep hydrated. Keep drinking as much water as you can. If you're able to have a lot of essential fatty acids in your diets, like omega-3s and stuff like that, and antioxidants like smoothies, like having your berries and things like that, like working on it from the inside as well as the outside is just as important. They go hand in hand. Don't try not to live off takeaways in the lead up to your wedding, because it will show on your face. But yeah, my other main thing would be like, don't try anything new that you haven't done before, or do things because you think you should. Only do it from actual advice that you've potentially been given, or you've been given by people who actually know what they're talking about, not people who are just trying to make money from you.
Yeah, exactly. Such great advice. I think there's so much pressure on brides, or there's like societal expectations, or you think you've got to have this massive list of beauty treatments and things you need to do week of or in that month of. And yeah, like you say, if it's not you, don't do it. I had a bride that didn't even shave her legs for her wedding day, but it's like, your legs
why
are probably
not?
under
Like your legs
dress,
aren't going to
like,
be out.
I was gonna say, so
Well, it's even like I've seen a massive increase in people not getting tans anymore, which is
Yeah.
amazing. I'm a pale person, and I look back at my tan for the wedding and wish that I'd gone lighter, but that kind of decision was taken out of my hands because I taught my husband how to spray tan when we lived in Brisbane. He did my hens do spray tan. It was dark, and I couldn't be bothered to get taking it off for the wedding, so it ended up being my wedding tan too. So that was a choice. That was a choice I made. But if it's not you, then don't do it. If you've never had a spray tan and you're thinking about doing it for the wedding, like, go for it, but get a test run done first. I've had a bride before where she must have just naturally been tanned when we did her trial, and then when it came to the wedding, she got a spray tan, and the spray tan was a lot darker. And then when I did her face to match her body, she hated it. We redid her base because she's like, it's too dark. And I'm like, well, it matches the body. And she was like, I don't care if my face looks lighter than my body. I just don't like how it looks. So we took it off, did it lighter, and she was happy. And that was the main thing. So it's, again, don't do things just because you think you have to.
Yeah, such good advice. In terms of makeup, are you seeing any kind of trends lately, or things you think will be seen more with wedding makeup?
I think we're kind of going to start circling back to a bit more dramatic makeup, or like a dramatic element, whether a really like a nice like smoky smoldery eye with maybe like a neutral lip or a glossy lip. I feel like I've been doing quite a few trials for glossy lips lately, which I love, or a softer eye with a bolder lip. I had a bride on the weekend, and we did the most beautiful like berry pink lip color on her, and it was stunning. It just went with the dress, went with everything. She felt so much like her because she followed. Originally, she wasn't going to do a bold lip because she's like, oh, it's my wedding. But if it's what you love, then do it, because it's how you see yourself as well. Like, it's what you enjoyed at that time versus in a couple of years, everything's always going to seem dated. The first wedding, I did like a deep burgundy lip. Like, you would not catch me dead in that now because it doesn't feel like me. But at the time, it's what I loved. So I did it. But what's been really, really popular, which is also one of my favorite kind of vibe, is the really like melty, glowy, smoldery skin. That's a really weird way to explain it, but it's like fresh skin, but it still has all the elements of like some warmth from bronzer, some blush, like everything's really blended together. It's not like super duper intense, or like if they do want to be more dramatic, it's dramatic on the eyes, not like harsh contouring. So the base is really beautiful and natural. And when I say natural, it's like natural glam, not like natural. Some people like natural, which is beautiful in itself.
Some people don't know what natural is. Yeah.
No, and that's a huge thing I find in makeup, and my biggest pet peeve is natural and neutral are two different things. You can have a natural makeup, and people will look at something that they'll think is natural, but it's neutral tones. So like the amount of times, like if you are a bride listening or a groom listening and you're getting your makeup done and you need inspo, do not go on Pinterest. That is my biggest pet peeve, because a lot of it's AI generated, photoshopped, filtered, all that sort of stuff. And when you put natural makeup or natural glam makeup, what you get is not natural. It's neutral tones that make it look natural. Yeah, that's my big pet peeve.
A whole other world. I didn't even think of like AI, and imagine like people altering their work with that as well. Yeah.
And unfortunately, like there are people who will do that with the content that they put on social media and stuff too, which is always heartbreaking when you see like a fellow makeup artist or what have you severely editing their clients' pictures, and especially because once you spot it, you can't unsee it in their work, which is always really sad because it sets unrealistic expectations. And there is nothing wrong with having under eye creasing. There is nothing wrong with having some frown lines, or there's nothing wrong with texture on the skin, especially if you're an acne prone girly. Like there's absolutely nothing wrong with texture. And I hate that the modern, I don't know, do you call it modern beauty standards, I guess, and in the realm of social media and stuff like that make us think that that's not okay. But it's absolutely fine. Whether you want it there or not is a whole different story, but having it is absolutely fine. And there are things like I love about this industry and things I hate about this industry, but the unrealistic expectation is something I absolutely hate. You've got to work with what you've got as well. Like, you are beautiful in your own way, so embrace it, work with it, and like accentuate it.
Embracing and enhancing your natural beauty, not like changing you into what you're not.
Yeah, exactly. That's where my business name came from. Like, it's amplifying people what they naturally have instead of trying to create you to look into a completely different thing. Sometimes that's fun. Do not get me wrong. Sometimes it's fun to go incredibly dramatic and like contouring heavily and stuff like that, but time, place, depending on what you want to do it for.
Yeah, exactly. So good. That's amazing. It's been so great to chat to you today. Is there anything else you wanted to add or that we missed as we wrap up?
Yeah, I think from in terms of if you're planning a wedding, a main piece of advice is the people who are there and who you should invite should be the people that support you 100% and that you don't care or don't think they're going to judge you for your choices, because if they are going to judge you for your choices, they shouldn't be there. And then from a vendor's perspective is trust your vendors. There's a reason why you've picked them, particularly from like a hair and makeup or even decor and florist perspective. You've picked them because of what they offer. So trust them when they say, let's try this, or maybe we should do this. Get inspo from their work rather than getting it from someone completely different. Or, like if you wanted them, you should have booked them. Like think about, yeah, that's what a big thing with vendors is pick them because you love them. I know it's so common with photography as well. Like photographers, you pick based on their work.
Exactly.
Like
It's funny.
that's what
I've
you should
known
be
a
doing.
few photographer friends that someone books them and then I don't think I've had this happen to me, or maybe like it's fine. Like love to see your inspo and it doesn't have to be all your work, but if they like send inspo photos and all of them from another photographer, it's like
Yeah.
seems like you wanted to book them. Maybe
Yeah.
you should have. But yeah. And yeah, with same makeup and everything, like get the one you want if that's like
Yeah.
what you want. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like book them for their work, not because they're available, is kind of my thought process as well. But yeah, those would probably be the main things is, yeah, remember what the wedding's for, remember why, or be smart with your guest list because they're supposed to be there to support you, not just because you would feel bad if they weren't invited. And yeah, trust your vendors because that's why you booked them, or should be why you booked them.
So good. Great takeaways. I know people are going to get a lot out of this chat. So thanks so much for coming on.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on it. It's been awesome.